Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best day of the week. It's Star Wars Talk Time, where we talk about our favorite thing in the world of movies, and that, of course, is Star Wars. We love Star Wars so much around here. We just got to talk about it every week and set aside a little bit of time to talk about nothing but Star Wars. So, listen, here's what we got going on today. Got a few emails that you guys have sent in that we're going to get around to. Then we're going to take some live questions, wrap up today's show in like 45 minutes or something like that. Obviously, you're going to talk right off the top about this, though. Obviously, this week, the brand new film in the Star Wars legacy opened up, Star Wars Solo, and it is a hell of a good time. It's a hell of a good time. Now, I cannot review the movie. I'm not going to go into details of the movie whatsoever, not until the review embargo lifts on the 15th. So that's, what is that? That's Tuesday. Pardon me, Tuesday, the review embargo lifts. So I will be putting up a review on Tuesday. I'll go into more details. But I can tell you this. It's a hell of a fun movie. It's not one of these movies that's going to be like on anybody's like top 5 movies of the year or anything like this. No, but it's a hell of a fun time. And I mean, just kind of repeating what a lot of people have been saying in their social media tweets about it, the Han and Chewie dynamic nailed. They absolutely nail it. It's fantastic. Alden Ehrenreich is Han Solo. He just is. I mean, he just captured it so great. Of course, Donald Glover is great as Lando. I mean, it's just a fun ride of a movie. And, you know, one of the things I've been repeating a lot lately, and it's true, is and you guys all know how much I love Rogue One, and I really like The Last Jedi, but those are very heavy movies. Coming off of the heaviness of like a Rogue One or a Last Jedi, just a good summer adventure film was a really nice palate cleanser, I should say. And it's just really refreshing and great. There's a few twists and surprises in there that I'm not even going to allude to here, but yeah, I had a really, really good time. So, hey, look, if you guys got some basic questions that won't require me to go into any details about Solo, feel free to ask those in the live chat when we get to those. But for now, we've got some questions that people have emailed in here. Now, how do you get a question on Star Wars Talk? It's simple. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com and put Star Wars in the subject line. Make sure you write Star Wars in the subject line so that way I know that you're sending in a question for Star Wars Talk. Okay. With that out of the way, let's go to the first emailed in question today. And the first emailed in question today comes to us from Jordan Rennie, who writes, "Greetings from Scotland." Well, greetings, Jordan. Since you've now seen Solo, a Star Wars story, how do you think it will do at the box office? Do you think it will pass the $1 billion mark? Thanks for taking my question and keep up the great work. Well, yeah, that's been a big topic of discussion around here. Is like, how's Solo going to do? In other words, how many people are going to want to rush out to see Solo? And are people going to want to go back and watch it again? You guys know this, right? But let's just cover this ground here. A while ago, I thought, okay, Solo can make $100 million opening weekend, and that would be great. And it'll make about $700 million worldwide, very profitable, great. It's going to be wonderful. But then I started going to movies where the Solo trailer would play, and people would lose their minds in the theaters of the Solo trailer. I'd be like, really? Really? And then, you know, tracking numbers come out about Solo tracking for $150 million opening weekend, maybe higher than that. Then Fandango puts out their report that in the first 24 hours of ticket sales, Solo more than doubled the amount of ticket sales in its first 24 hours than Black Panther did. I'm like, really? So anyway, when you consider all the things going against it, I've found those things really surprising. And I really did like the last trailer. So the last trailer got me excited. So it's still really hard to say how this thing's going to do. I will say this. I believe this movie can hit the $1 billion mark, but I do not think it will. I think it can. It's possible, yeah. But I do not think it will. I still think it's going to come in between that $700 to $900 million range. That's where I think it's going to come in, which is fabulous. It'll make it one of the highest grossing films of the year. It'll be big moneymaker for the company. Everybody should be happy. But I don't think it'll hit the $1 billion mark, which is fine. Perfectly fine. If it did, again, how insane would that be? 4 films in a row that Star Wars would have put out, all of them joining the $1 billion club. It's just crazy. It's absolutely lunacy to think of it in those terms. Anyway, so there's that. So can it hit $1 billion? Yeah, it can. But to be really honest with you, I wouldn't count on it. I just don't think, again, it's not one of the episodic movies. There are still a bunch of people who didn't like The Last Jedi, so there are going to be some people who won't want to give it a chance. All these things kind of play into it that I do not think it'll hit $1 billion. But again, you don't have to hit $1 billion to be a massively successful movie, especially if you're some small, like a prequel-ish Star Wars film that nobody asked for in the first place. For example, a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. Nobody wanted it. And if that movie can still hit $700 to $900 million, perfect, great. If it hits $1 billion, forget about it. It would just be absolutely nuts. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. And the next email today comes to us from Rob Cameron, who writes, am I the only one getting sick to death of all The Last Jedi and Star Wars haters who are supposedly fans, now encouraging fans to boycott Solo? Why are they doing this, John? Well, here's the thing. And look, I think this is an important discussion for people in the Star Wars community to have. And here's my position, all right? You guys know, just look around me, as big of a Star Wars nerd as I am, you guys know that doesn't mean I'm supposed to love anything that has the Star Wars label on it. Just because I'm a massive Star Wars fan does not mean I am required to like anything, no matter how good or bad, just because it has a Star Wars label on it. You guys know there's a number of things in the universe of Star Wars that I have not liked over the years. Whether you're talking about the prequels, whether you're talking about Clone Wars, whether you're talking about certain seasons of Rebels, whatever, just because something has a Star Wars label on it, that doesn't mean that as a Star Wars fan, I am obligated to love everything that has Star Wars in it. I'm not, nor do I expect that from anybody else. You guys know that I, more than just don't love the prequels, I hate the prequels. I do. I hate the prequels. But that has never stopped me from also saying that just because I don't like the prequels doesn't mean that you shouldn't like them. Now, if you want to ask me my opinion, why don't I like the prequels? I'll sit here and give you a laundry list about why I don't like the prequels and why I think they're terrible. But if you like them, that's awesome. That's great. I celebrate that. If you like them, good for you. That's awesome. I'm never going to take that away from you. It's not going to change my opinion, but that you like them is great. You like that Clone Wars animated stuff? Awesome. Great. I'm glad somebody does. I don't, but you do? Perfect. And we'll talk about that. I'll always hold my opinion that I think they're terrible, but that doesn't mean I need to make you think they're terrible. If you like them, you like them. That's great. It's not my job to convince you to hate something you like, nor is it my job to convince you to like something you hate. But hey, that's movies, that's entertainment, that's part of what it means to be a film fan and even wider scope as a Star Wars fan, right? Where some people become nut-sucking babies is what we've seen happen in Star Wars fandom, and to be fair, it's not just Star Wars fandom, it's like almost every facet of fandom, is this overgrown, out of control, immature sense of entitlement that has crept its way into certain corners of Star Wars fandom. What I mean by that entitlement is that everybody now feels that this is them and this is the universe. That everything should be about them. You see, where you take most Star Wars fans, like even Star Wars fans who don't like the prequels. Don't like the prequels? Yeah, we'll trash on the prequels, but you like the prequels? Awesome. That's great. We've moved from that to Star Wars must only be what I want it to be. And if it's not about me, if it's not me at the center of the universe and the universe going around me, then I'm going to stomp my feet and whine and complain like a little bitch. No, I didn't like this in The Last Jedi. Boycott Star Wars. I mean, that's basically it. You become a screeching infant in the spare bedroom that the adults are trying to go, maybe if we just ignore it, it'll finally fall asleep. That's what you are. You're that screaming infant that the rest of the grown-ups are going, oh God, please just fall asleep. Please just fall asleep. That's what they are. Notice there's nothing wrong with anybody who doesn't like The Last Jedi. That's fine. I've got issues with The Last Jedi. I mean, overall I like it, but I got issues with it. There's nothing wrong with people who straight up don't like some really good friends of mine who love Star Wars, are great Star Wars fans. They really don't like The Last Jedi. No problem. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. Where you get into this infantile, moronic, me universe kind of thing is, I don't like it. Therefore, nobody should like it. And we are going to organize and try to call on a boycott of it. Why? Because they didn't make the movie they wanted it to make. They don't care that the majority of people out there do like it. They don't care that there are people who got a lot of love out of it and a lot of fun and a lot of excitement and something that deepened their love of Star Wars. They don't care about that. All they care about is they didn't make the movie I wanted them to make. We need to organize a boycott. And here's what happens. What happens is you get this me universe mentality. You get this sense of entitlement. And this is not unique to Star Wars, but you get this whole notion that if you are not going to do what I want you to do, then nobody should like it. And we don't care if we want to trash on other people's love of something. As much as I detest the prequels, I will never stomp on other people's love of it. You like the prequels? That's great. I'm not going to call for, get rid of the prequels, write them out of canon. You know what? No, there are people who love it. If it works for them, wonderful. That's great. No problem with that. Enjoy. You love it. I'm not going to, but I'm going to celebrate that you do. And so it all becomes about them. And again, here's where the biggest thing comes in. What now you start doing is, much like in the toxic comic book fandom, where you have Marvel and sides of DC, never mind that, hey, you can like or not like whatever. Why do you have to pick a side? But what you've got is this Marvel and DC, and what you do is you get these toxic fragments of the Marvel fandom that they don't define themselves by what they love, loving Marvel. They define themselves by, I hate DC, and that's how I define myself, is by what I hate. And in certain DC circles, I'm not defined by my love of DC. I'm defined by the fact that my identifying mark, my badge that I wear, is that I hate Marvel. People who define themselves by what they hate. And hate can be trendy. Hate can catch on. And so what you do is you're now getting certain pockets, and this is really sad. You're getting pockets of the Star Wars fandom that are no longer defining themselves by what they love. They are instead now defining themselves by what they hate. And we are now defined by what we hate. I hate the prequels, but I will never be defined by my hate of the prequels. I'm defined by my love of Star Wars. And if you like Star Wars, if you like prequels, that's great. I don't like it, but that's never going to be my defining factor. My defining factor is never going to be about Star Wars should only make things that I agree with. Now, will I make an argument to, hey, please don't make movies anymore that are smaller, make them bigger? Yes, I will make my case. But if you do make one that's smaller, I'm not going to go, well, yeah, then I'm not a fan anymore. No, I will make my case. Please make different movies. Please make movies in different parts of the galaxy with different characters and stop making prequels. Yeah, I'll make my case for that if that's what I'd like. But if you don't do what I want, I'm not going to stomp my feet and cross my arms and yell for a boycott. And honestly, it's just sad because here's the thing too. Like Thanos and like villains in a lot of movies, these toxic individuals don't even realize that they're toxic. They don't even realize they are destructive, cancerous cells in the living organism that is the Star Wars fan community. They don't even recognize it. They think they're the heroes. They think what they're doing is right. They think what they're doing is right, and they don't even recognize that they are toxic, destructive, cancerous cells in what needs to otherwise be a healthy Star Wars fandom organism. And they think, no, what they're doing, they're justified in doing what they're doing. Because I didn't like that they put a black guy in the lead of a Star Wars movie. I didn't like that a woman has been the lead of this. I didn't like that Luke Skywalker said this instead of this. And so therefore they feel justified in becoming this really toxic influence, defining themselves and those that follow them by what they hate. And it's just not healthy. It's not healthy for them. It's not healthy for the Star Wars fan community. It's just pathetic and weak. And look, I'm not telling anybody that they should like The Last Jedi or any of the other Star Wars movies. If you don't like Empire Strikes Back, that's fine. If you don't like Jedi, that's fine. If you don't like Rebels, that's fine. If you don't like Solo when it comes out, that's fine. But this whole notion of, defining themselves by what they hate, this infantile sense of entitlement, and all this type of stuff, we're just really seeing it manifest. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. And all we can do is, wait for them to grow up. Now, as fans, we want to be passionate and we want to hoot and holler, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. But where it crosses a line, and this is true in comic book movie fandom, this is true in Star Wars fandom, where it crosses a line is when you cross that line from, now all these things that I love or all these things that are hate, if anybody else doesn't love or hate exactly what I love and hate, the way I love and hate them, then there's something wrong with you. And that's where we cross a line. And look, I don't think everything in Star Wars is sunshine and rainbows. There are things in Star Wars I have problems with. Some entire movies, some parts of movies, some entire TV shows, some parts of TV shows. I am there too. But it doesn't define who I am as a Star Wars fan. And it doesn't make me want to trample on the joy that those things bring other people. So, I don't know. I think the reality is this. Anybody who starts to define themselves by what they hate within the Star Wars community and makes an attempt to trample on the things that bring other people joy, at that point I have to question if they're a Star Wars fan at all. Like, if you don't like The Last Jedi, I don't question whether or not you're a Star Wars fan. But if you hate The Last Jedi and you call for a boycott of it and you try to trample on other people's love of it, not by just expressing your own opinion, but by trying to, do what all this other types of crap to try to cast shade on all this. But at that point, I got to wonder whether you're even a Star Wars fan or you're just somebody trying to get a little bit of attention. Because if you love Star Wars, then that doesn't mean you have to love every bit of Star Wars. It means you can love parts of it and have problems with the other, but you love the overall community and you love the overall thing, and you keep defining yourself by what you love, not by what you hate. Anyway, there's a larger picture here about the bigger movie fandom rather than just Star Wars when it comes into that. But yeah, again, it is something that has crept its way into Star Wars fandom, which is really unfortunate. And hopefully, those involved with it will just continue to mature and grow through it and grow past it. And otherwise, it's just up to everybody else to continue to like what they like, don't like what they don't like, and yet still be fans all at the same time. I mean, it's kind of crummy seeing what's happening in some corners of the Star Wars fandom, but it is what it is, and hopefully we can all grow through it. All right, last email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from Alpha Adu, who writes, now that we know Favreau's show will be set 7 years after the original trilogy, how possible would it be to see Luke cameo at some point and school some fools, which is what I've always been wanting? I think it's not impossible if the show is prestigious enough. Plus, it would be a great selling point for audiences, even though it would be, quote unquote, shrinking the universe. All right, so there's a couple of issues I have with that. Now, what Alpha's talking about is Jon Favreau on the red carpet of Solo the other night. He's, of course, showrunning, writing, and producing a brand new live-action Star Wars series for the upcoming Disney streaming service. And he said he's already halfway done writing the first season, which is very exciting. So, and one of the points that he made was that it takes place 7 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, which to me is a terrific time period. It's a time period that's pretty much untouched. And he's also, the other big exciting thing is that it's all new characters, which is exciting for me. Finally, a different time window and all new characters. Love it. So that gets me very excited. So the notion, well, Luke Skywalker's around during those years. How about using a Luke Skywalker character in that and use that to help market the show and blah, blah, blah. Here's the problem with that. Forget the whole, once again, it's something that shrinks the universe. So forget that argument for a second. Here's where the big argument comes from. If you use like a one-time Luke Skywalker appearance in the marketing of your show, that's a little bit of bait and switch. That's a little bit of bait and switch. Like if your show is centered on completely new scenario, completely new characters, all that kind of stuff, then bringing in Luke Skywalker and putting him in your trailer, then it's like you're selling a bill of goods. This is what Lucasfilm would be running the risk of at any rate. If they'd be running the risk of selling a bill of goods to something that the audience isn't getting. It's like, okay, Luke showed up for 2 minutes. Okay, great. And then it's like, well, where's Luke Skywalker? Oh no, he was only there for the 1 minute. But you marketed this show, and part of your promise of this show was Luke Skywalker. Yeah, but it was only for that 1 minute. It runs the risk of rubbing people the wrong way, I would think. So I think it actually presents some problems. Like if you're really trying to say this is a new show with new characters, then I think you stick to that. I think you build on that and you make that your identity and you stick to it. And it might actually be, I can't help but wonder, just wondering, I can't help but wonder if maybe it'd then be a little bit counterproductive to bring in a Han Solo appearance, or to bring in a Leia appearance, or to bring in a Luke Skywalker appearance, or to bring in an R2-D2 appearance. You know what I'm saying? If you're building it on this is new adventures, new characters, then maybe it's a little counterintuitive to go the other way. I don't know, but maybe there's an argument to be made for it. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a good constructive way that you could have cameos of the bigger, more popular characters in this time frame? Or do you think that maybe they should just build it all around new adventures, new characters? What do you think? Jump into the comment section. I'm curious to know what you guys think, because as in a lot of things, you guys can change my minds, which you have changed my mind an awful lot of times. You could change my mind on it. Jump down there and let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, with that out of the way, we got about 15 minutes left. I want to take some live questions. So let's go over to the live chat board and see what you guys are talking about. And we're going to get things started today with, if I can bring it up, there it is. We're going to get things started with Murray. And Murray writes, Ahsoka Thanos. I was going to say Ahsoka Tano. There, I said it. Well, that would be an interesting crossover, wouldn't it? An Ahsoka Thanos. The two greatest evils in the universe. I kid. I know a lot of you guys like Ahsoka. I don't, but I know a lot of you guys do. That would make a great. A lot of people like mixing up their cosplay. That would make a great cosplay mashup. Somebody with the body of Thanos, but dressed in Ahsoka Tano's clothes with two lightsabers and an Infinity Gauntlet. That would make a hell of a cosplay. All right, let's see. Yoda the Wise writes, the Solo movie I want to see. Look, I really do think this is the Solo movie a lot of people were hoping for. It's so true to the character. Again, I'm not going to go into any details because the review embargo is still in place, but so true to the character. You're going to love the Chewie. These are all things, again, that everybody's just already said on Twitter. You're going to love the Chewie-Han dynamic. The Chewie-Han dynamic is absolutely the cornerstone of this whole movie. It really is. Falling in love with the Falcon. Just so many things I want to say, but I can't. But it's a hell of a good time. And I think you're going to have a good time. Perfect movie? No, by no stretch of the imagination is it a perfect movie. Fun movie? Yes. And that's what this movie aims to be. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. Michael D. sends in a huge super chat. Michael, thank you so much for the support, man. I'm floored. I hope you sent in a great question. Here we go. Michael D. writes, John, you have been a great source of entertainment in the past few years of my life. Ever since the old AMC Movie Talk days, I always looked forward to your thoughts/views on movie topics. Even though sometimes we may not agree, I still cherish and respect your opinions. Oh, I have a text limit. Get the Thanos. Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. And dude, the fact that you would take that time and write that in and contribute to what we do here like that, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for being around. It is really funny, Michael, talking about like I've been doing this long enough now that it is crazy. There have been people who like been joining me talking movies like this for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years. Like some people all the way back to the AMC days, some people back to the For Your Consideration days, some people all the way back to my movie blog days. And it is really crazy that we've been going down this film fandom journey together for so long, talking Star Wars and all types of other stuff as well. It's really crazy. Now, as far as the Thanos goes, it's funny because Ann and I were talking about that again today. Anne's like, I was serious when I said you could get that Thanos. I'm like, really? Were you really serious? Were you? Because sometimes, it's a trap, Because I know you said I could get it, but was that like you're saying I can get it, but what you're really saying is you better not get it? And she says, no, it would be really cool. You can get it if you want. So I'm thinking I might get that Thanos thing. And I'll have to have it sitting on set with me like right here. Because if I'm going to spend that kind of money on that damn Thanos thing, I'm going to sit it right here and it's going to be on the show every day, probably for like a month or something like that. But hey, listen, Michael, again, do me a favor, because there wasn't a question in there. Do me a favor, email me. Email John at the John Campea Show. Just put Michael in the subject line or whatever. And send me in a question so I can make sure I get one of your questions in. Because you're going to support the show like that. I want to get one of your questions on the show too. So make sure you do that. So thank you so much again for that, Michael. I appreciate it. Murray writes, imagine this. What if the Empire got their hands on the Infinity Gauntlet with the stones? Well, I think there'd only be 2 beings in the Star Wars universe who could wield it. Perhaps 3. Yoda, the Emperor, and maybe Vader. Depending on the era. If you get into the Last Jedi, the Force Awakens era, maybe Luke could wield it as well. But you'd only have a few people that could wield it. But yeah, in the Imperial days, if the Emperor could get his hands on a gauntlet, an Infinity Gauntlet, yeah, imagine the rebellion would have been gone like that, right? It would have been chaos. Chris Martin writes, John, I need an Ahsoka hot toy now. I'd buy one so quick. It is really nuts to me. It is because Ahsoka Tano, while her run on Rebels did redeem the character a little bit for me. I've always admitted that. The Ahsoka's character's run on Rebels redeemed the character a bit for me. I have never liked the Ahsoka character, like at all. Right from the start when she first appeared in the Clone Wars movie, which I just wanted to, I just seethed hatred for the character. I hated that character so much. And then you got into Rebel, and once you got into Clone Wars, the TV show, the character grew on a lot of people, but it just was never able to grow on me. And I know a lot of people that just love the Ahsoka character, including, why am I forgetting the name of Dave Filoni? Dave Filoni, who's the executive producer of Clone Wars, I mean, he's got like a hard-on for that character. I mean, he's got just a place in his soul permanently just for Ahsoka Tano. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ahsoka Tano shows up in this new Star Wars Resistance show that he's going to be executive producing. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. But yeah, it was never a character that worked for me. But hey, it worked for a lot of you guys. And I will say this, the character design, especially in the later years, like on Rebels, the character design of Ahsoka is pretty cool. And you get the right pose with her with the 2 lightsabers, that could be a pretty impressive hot toy. That could be, even I will admit, that would probably be a pretty impressive hot toy. All right, Murray writes, you mentioned many times there is no wrong order to watch Star Wars, except there's one problem. Once you've seen the prequels first, you kind of ruin the first viewing experience twist with The Empire Strikes Back. Well, here's the thing with that though, Murray, is that even people, wherever you can find the odd person in the world who's never seen Star Wars, even people who have never seen Star Wars, they know Darth Vader is Luke's father. Like I remember, I've told the story about how Ann and I, when we were like 4 months into our dating relationship and we realized this could be kind of serious, and I found out she had never seen Star Wars. And I'm like, what? And I had to have this talk with her. I was like, okay, look, baby, this is going real well, but this you and me thing, this can't go any further until you sit down and watch Star Wars. What happens if I don't like it? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this, what we got going on, this cannot go any further until you watch Star Wars. But even though she had never watched them yet at that point, and then she watched them and she's crazy about Star Wars, but the thing is, even she knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father. Everybody knows Luke, I am your father. No, I am your father. Like, everybody knows that. So I wouldn't see that as a problem. So yeah, I really don't, other than whatever order you want to watch Star Wars movies, as long as you watch episodes 4, 5, and 6 in order, whether that's at the beginning, middle, or end of your viewing experience, as long as you watch episodes 4, 5, and 6 together, there's really no wrong order to watch them. So I still kind of stand by that. I think you're okay. Like, should I watch Rogue One first, or should I watch the original trilogy first, or should I do this, or should I... there's no real big wrong answer to that. As long as you watch the original trilogy in its own sequential order, I think you'll pretty much be fine with the rest of it. That's just my opinion at any rate. All right. Chris Martin writes, I cannot wait for the Obi-Wan movie. If you were directing it, what would you want the movie to entail? What villain would you want to see? Could Thrawn be in it? Okay, that's a whole lot of questions. I don't know what I would do with it. The only thing that I know I would do, and this is a very general thing, the only thing I know that I would do is that this would be a movie that takes place somewhere between the events of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Somewhere in that time period, whether that's a 15-year time gap, whatever, or a 20-year time gap, somewhere in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, when Obi-Wan is on Tatooine watching over Luke. And you can do, other than that, do anything. You can have Obi-Wan fighting crime lords on Tatooine. You could have it where Obi-Wan needs to leave Tatooine for a short period of time to go take care of some business elsewhere in the galaxy. You can do whatever you want, that's fine. The only thing that I'm bringing to the wish list is that it happens in that time period. Somewhere between the events of Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan goes to Tatooine, and A New Hope when we catch up with him on Tatooine. Other than that, I'm good. My one other little Christmas item to add to the wish list would be that Ewan McGregor plays it. If it has to be somebody else, that's fine. Like, we'll all be very sad if it's not Ewan McGregor at first, and then we'll just get on board with whoever the new actor is going to be. But if I got to add, my own personal wish list would be that Ewan McGregor comes on board to do it. So that's it. As far as villains go, I don't care. As far as Thrawn goes, I really doubt it. It doesn't seem like, if you're going to use Thrawn, there has to be a galactic level thing going on. And I think with an Obi-Wan movie, you go smaller. I would like to see go smaller in that time period with Ewan McGregor. Other than that, to me, it's a totally clean slate. Whatever it is they want to do, go for it. And I'll just sit back and anxiously await to see what they're going to do. All right. Next one comes to us from Murray, who writes, if an Obi-Wan movie is happening, and if it's in 2020, then you have the issue of having it in December because it shares the same month as Avatar 2 and Sherlock Holmes 3. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily an issue. I mean, again, I think monstrous movies can open close to each other as long as you got at least a week in between them. As long as one doesn't open one week and the next one opens the next week, I think you're okay. And let's be honest, I'm not so sure how big a Sherlock Holmes 3 movie would be. I'm excited. Like, if you guys saw me do my video about it, you guys know I'm excited about a Sherlock Holmes 3. I am. But I also don't think Sherlock Holmes 3 is going to be a $700 million film. You know what I mean? And Avatar 2 is not going to be a $2 billion film. It's a little bit too late. It's going to be huge. Avatar 2 is going to be huge. Make no mistake about it. But I don't think it's going to be a $2 billion film. It's not going to break records like the big records like the first Avatar did. A little too little, a little too late. Plus, I mean, who says that if they do put out an Obi-Wan movie in 2020, which, by the way, nobody said it would be 2020, maybe it'd be 2021, who knows? But even if it does come out in 2020, who's to say it has to come out in December? It doesn't have to come out in December. So either way you look at it, I really don't see any big problems. I don't see any big problems. I don't see any big issues. And look, if Solo can make $900 million, or God, I mean, if Solo can make $1 billion in May, then why not release it in May? Why not release it in September? I just don't see that there's anything written in stone that says it has to be December. But if it is in December, I even then don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it could be fine. Okay. Starman writes, the biggest Star Wars haters are Star Wars fans, more or less. I mean, again, like I was saying a little bit earlier, there's a fuzzy line there. You can really, like, I hate the prequels. I'm a big prequels hater. But when you cross a line into trying to, if you're not going to do Star Wars the way I want you to, I'm going to do everything I can do to damage Star Wars as much as I can. I'm going to try to trample on people's love of something because it's not something that I love. I'm going to try to cause boycotts and I'm going to try to do this, blah, blah, blah. At that point, I got to wonder if you're a Star Wars fan at all. If you're not somebody who's of sound enough mind and intelligent enough to understand, hey, I didn't like that thing, but there are a bunch of people who did, and the universe isn't about me, so I shouldn't try to piss all over the fact that they like it. I can express my opinion that I don't like it, and here's why, but I'm not going to try to trample on their love of it and try to take it away from them and try to make them, force them to make Star Wars the way I want Star Wars to be made. Like, there's got to be a difference there. And if you don't understand that line, if you don't understand that difference, I got to question whether you actually are a Star Wars fan or not. You can hate The Last Jedi and be a huge Star Wars fan. But if you hate The Last Jedi and you're like, you know, screw everybody else, I want that erased from life. I don't like what Star Wars is doing. I'm going to try to get a boycott. But wait a minute, other people, other of your fellow Star Wars fans, a whole ton of your other Star Wars fans are enjoying it and love it and embrace it. I don't care. It's not what I want. Therefore, I'm going to, like, at that point, I got to question whether or not you're actually a Star Wars fan. You can hate The Last Jedi and be a Star Wars fan. You can't try to ruin Star Wars for everybody else and call yourself a Star Wars fan, though. That's the difference. I hate the prequels, but I'm not trying to ruin the prequels for other people. I'm not trying to say get rid of the prequels, write them out of existence, blah, 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 blah. I hate them, and I'll tell you, I'll very happily sit here and talk about all the ways that I hate the prequels, but I'll also celebrate that you love them. And if you don't know the difference, then I got to wonder if you're actually a Star Wars fan. So that's where I think the difference is. Let's see. What happened? Ben Lorenowitz writes, where does it rank compared to the other Star Wars? It's too early for me to call for sure. No Star Wars movie for me has come out that cracks the original trilogy. The original trilogy is still the top 3 for sure. I think it's probably, it's the original trilogy. It's The Force Awakens. And then where I'm torn is, you guys know how much I love Rogue One. I'm torn with whether Rogue One or Solo comes next after The Force Awakens. I'm still torn on that. But it would then be Rogue One and Force Awakens. I'm not sure which order. Then Star Wars The Last Jedi. And then you get into the prequels for me. So that's how I would kind of order it. That's where it's fighting for its spot right now. It's in that number 5 or 6 spot behind The Force Awakens. Now, whether it's behind Rogue One or just ahead of Rogue One, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to see the film again later this week. So maybe after I see it a second time, I'll start to get a better idea where exactly it sits. So I'd have to think about that. Captain Rex and Mrs. Ezra Bridger writes, how would you repair the rift in the fandom? There's no way to do it. Movies cannot repair the fandom. Fandom has to repair the fandom. All right? And what it's going to take is just for people who are a little bit immature, who believe me universe, to just get to the point where they go, okay, and understand, I don't have to love everything in Star Wars to be a Star Wars fan. And other people in the Star Wars fandom can like something that I don't. And it's okay for me to dislike or even hate something and still embrace that other people love it. You can do that. It's going to take people fixing it themselves. There's nothing we can do to force people into it. It's just going to take some immature people out there. And let's face it, we're all admit, look at the toys I got back here. I mean, so it's funny me using the word mature, but what it's going to take is some emotionally immature people to mature to the point where they go, it's okay for me to love something that somebody else hates. It's okay for me to hate something, embrace the fact that I hate it, yet at the same time embrace the fact that there are other people in my fan community who do love it. And it's okay. And that's okay. They just have to break out of their me universe mentality. And when that happens, the fandom will get healthier. But that's the thing about the fandom. The fandom is about its individuals. And that means it has to be fixed on an individual by individual basis. And for the most part, only individuals can do it for themselves. So that's just the thing of it. Last 2 questions of the day, then we'll wrap it up. Cobra writes, should Luke be in the Obi-Wan movie? There's something to be said, understanding that Obi-Wan, okay, and this is a big if the movie does take place between the events of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, then Luke, the presence of Luke being there makes sense because that's Obi-Wan's entire point of being on Tatooine, right? However, I would limit it to cameo. Like, depending on how early on in the days on Tatooine it is for Obi-Wan, whether we just see a young little kid running across the sand that Obi-Wan is looking through his binoculars at. Something little like that. I think it would almost be jarring to not at least have a minor cameo presence of Luke there, because in that context, it makes sense. So, yeah, I think Luke would be in an Obi-Wan movie, but I would limit it to a cameo. And to references and things like that, but I wouldn't make him a significant character in it. That's just the way I would approach it, but who knows, maybe they come up with a great idea. Okay, last question of the day. Do you think Kylo's conflict, hold on a second. Do you think Kylo's conflict will be gone in 9? Yes, I do believe Kylo, his conflict is gone. He is, like, both Luke, Rey, and Leia all acknowledge that Kylo's gone. Ben is gone. All that's left is Kylo. So they may have something else in mind, but yeah, I think the way they're going is that the conflict in Kylo Ren is now gone. He is all dark side all the time. That's what I think. I think he's full-blown dark side now, and I think that's what they're going to do. I don't know that for sure, and there are other options that they could pursue, but it seems like that's what they were setting up. Okay. And Michael D writes in one more thing, so I got to get to this. Writes, John, Anne is the best. Listen to her. Star Wars question. Let's see. If you were asked to be in a Star Wars movie as an extra, would you want to be in hidden background or have your face clearly displayed to the world? Would that distract you from the film? Ooh. Look, if I were to be in a Star Wars film, if I got to be a background character, like an extra in a Star Wars film, I would probably want to hide in plain sight so that later, years later, I could still point, say, see that dude right there? That's me. But I wouldn't want my face going, hello, Mr. Kenobi, can I offer you a drink? I would hate to be in a position where I could single-handedly ruin a Star Wars movie. Because believe you me, I lack so much acting talent that I probably could single-handedly destroy a Star Wars movie. I really possibly could. So I probably wanted to be hidden in plain sight. In a place that you could clearly see, hey, that's me, and I can point to them saying, that's me, but kind of hidden in plain sight all at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And yes, you're right, Anne is the best. I could sit here and talk about my wife all day. My wife is simply the best. I mean, she's brilliant. She's cool, she's nerdy, she's hot, she's like the most beautiful, intelligent combination of a woman a frickin' loser like me could ever hope to come across. And here I am. And there's still people out there. I think I still have family members who believe I have something on her. Like I must be blackmailing her. Like maybe I saw her murder somebody and it's like, marry me and be my wife or I'll report you to the police kind of thing. Like I think even my mother suspects that. But so far, so good. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment and this week's installment of Star Wars Talk. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of this whole thing. Hey, guys, wanted to let you guys know, don't forget next Sunday after Star Wars Talk, at 4 p.m. next Sunday, after next Sunday Star Wars Talk, we got our first episode of Movie Club. So it's where we just openly discuss, full spoilerish and everything, a particular movie. And the very first movie we're doing for Movie Club is the Academy Award Best Picture winning film, Gladiator. So you've got all week now to make sure you get a chance to rewatch Gladiator at least once. And then let's get together next Sunday and talk about Gladiator. Let's see, what else can I inform you guys of? Oh yeah, I'm going to go see Deadpool tomorrow morning. So I'm going to do the John Campea show tomorrow morning. And by the way, I've been announcing for the last couple of days that I've moved things back around. So the John Campea show, the main movie news show, is now at 8:30 in the morning, and open mic has been moved back to its original 2 p.m. spot. So that starts tomorrow. So after we do the John Campea show tomorrow morning, my buddy Ryan's coming over. He's going to crash here tonight. And then he and I are going to go off and see Deadpool in the morning. And I'm going to have my Deadpool review up tomorrow evening. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Star Wars Talk Show. Thank you so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.